Hello from the State House. I'm Jeff Salkin. Welcome to MPT's coverage of the Governor's State of the State address. Right now in the House of Delegates chamber here in the historic State House, members of the State Senate have crossed the hall and are joining their House colleagues in a joint session of the General Assembly. They will send a delegation upstairs to the governor's office to summon the governor to deliver what will be a bit of history here, because it's only the second time in state history that a Republican governor has served a second term. So this will be Mr. Hogan's fifth State of the State address. He was reelected by a nearly 12-point margin over Democratic nominee Ben Jealous several months ago. Mr. Hogan was swimming upstream. It was a big Democratic year, big blue wave, in this one of America's bluest states. How did Mr. Hogan do it? Well, 2 weeks ago at his inaugural ball, he showed up with a purple surfboard and said that's how he surfed this blue wave of the 2018 election. In his inaugural address, the governor spoke of bipartisanship.
4 years ago, I committed to usher in a new era of bipartisan cooperation and prosperity in Maryland, one filled with hope and optimism. I pledged to govern with civility and moderation, to avoid attempts to drive us to the extremes of either political party, and to uphold the virtues that are the basis of Maryland's history as a state of middle temperament. I believe it's because we kept that promise to put problem solving ahead of partisanship and compromise ahead of conflict that I'm standing here today, just as humbled and eager and awed as I was at the start of my first term. We have spent 4 years working together to unshackle the unlimited potential and promise of this great state. We debated, discussed, and reasoned together, honestly and productively, with integrity and sincere purpose. We argued without acrimony, negotiated without hidden agendas, and compromised without political posturing. We didn't demand Republican solutions or Democratic solutions.
Joined now by MPT legislative reporter Charles Robinson. The speech, the inaugural address 2 weeks ago, more general themes. Today we're expecting more specifics in the State of the State.
And Jeff, we got a preview of this during a PBS NewsHour event that was streamed online. The governor said he's going to have a large tax cut. He didn't give any details, but that was just one of several major things he talked about. As you know, Jeff, this governor is very popular in the state, and guess what? People have not shied away from considering him a potential presidential candidate. For you and I, we're kind of going, is he serious or is he not? And he never left anything to chance by always saying that, well, you know, I've not ruled that out.
The governor's national prominence is a result of the fact that he did surf the blue wave.
Yes.
He was one of a handful of Republican high-level officials around the country who survived the blue wave and prospered in this very blue state. Now the governor's going to be in Iowa. Because of his role in the National Governors Association, but he's going to be meeting with people and has done nothing so far, Charles, to dissuade the idea that he would like to be a national player in national politics.
What's funny about that, at this event that was held in Baltimore, that the NewsHour, was the governor of New Hampshire, Governor Sununu. He literally told the governor, hey, hope you won't mind if I stop by, and he's planning to make so it will not quell the, if you will, the rumor, the innuendo, whatever you want to call it, that the governor is at least thinking about what's going on. But the other thing is that a lot of what happens in Maryland is affected by national politics. I think a number, and he has said on several occasions he thinks this is a schoolyard squabble, and he doesn't want to see the government shut down again.
Let's take a look at what's happening inside the House of Delegates chamber as preparations are underway for the speech. Worth noting that while the Republican governor was reelected easily, the Democrats in the legislature picked up seats. Voters were maybe saying two things at the same time. You're looking at House of Delegates Speaker Michael Bush. In his chamber with 141 members, there are now 99 Democrats. And the party may have moved a little bit to the left ideologically in terms of what the leadership agenda is going to be for this session. That was announced earlier this week with the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, and their committee chairs. And it's a progressive agenda. They'd like to raise the minimum wage in Maryland to $15 an hour, currently about $10. Federal minimum wage currently about $7. There are places in Maryland, counties that have elected to impose a higher minimum wage, as there you see the First Lady Yumi Hogan and one of their daughters. What else is on the legislature's radar?
Well, first and foremost, both the Democrats and the Republicans have put together agendas. So, of course, the Republican agenda has a tax cut in it as well. So you can expect that to at least roll through. The other one, I think, is the Democratic agenda. Like you said, it includes the $15 minimum wage, but it also has a ban on styrofoam. That is going to be one of the most toughest things to get through this legislature because, as you know, we're an environmentally friendly state. But will the body politic be willing to go down that road?
In terms of what the state of the state actually is, it's relatively good. The unemployment rate around Maryland below 4%. The state treasury is in relatively good shape. The budget that the governor introduced was generous. It was well received. Our Nancy Amata took a look at what was in that budget.
Every single school system in Maryland will see increased investment by the state.
Governor Larry Hogan says his $44.6 billion budget responsibly holds the line on spending without raising taxes, cutting services, or raiding special funds. The proposed 2020 general fund operating budget totals $19.6 billion. $6.9 billion will go to fully fund K-12 education beyond the mandated spending formulas.
Of course, I always want to see education funded fully, and he's been a pretty good supporter of that, so I have to give him credit. School construction money is also going to be huge for every school district.
Under the governor's plan, a record $438 million will be allocated for school construction, and the University of Maryland will receive a 4% increase over last year in state funds. Undergrad tuition growth at all state schools will be capped at 2%. Besides providing health coverage for 1.4 million Marylanders through Medicaid, the budget also dedicates 20% more than last year to combat the heroin and opioid crisis.
The opioid addiction and issue is very much in the forefront of all of us here in the legislature, and we also look forward to his assistance in public safety, particularly in Baltimore City.
State employees should take note. The proposed budget calls for a 3% raise. The 2020 budget also proposes tax relief for military, police, and fire retirees, as well as expanding the types of retirement income that are excluded from taxation. To make college more affordable, the proposed budget calls for student loan interest to be 100% tax deductible. The budget also leaves $1.3 billion in reserve to guard against any downturn in the economy.
Well, the nice thing about Governor Hogan is since we've had him, we've not had any tax increases. And I think that's important for Maryland. We're one of the highest tax states in the country. It's not good for people. It's expensive to live here. And what I know is he'll spend what we can afford and not more than we can afford.
He's evolved as he's been here for 4 years.
Despite those words, Senate President Mike Miller says the governor can't take all the credit for Maryland's progress and prosperity.
He wants to be the education governor. The reason he's the education governor, we've had to mandate a level of funding because he wouldn't fund the education. The reason we're having a Prince George's Hospital is so we had to mandate a Prince George's Hospital. We wouldn't get it done.
Under the state constitution, lawmakers technically only have one job to do during the 90-day session, and that's to pass a balanced budget. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle predict they'll be able to do that without any protracted fights or partisan acrimony. I'm Nancy Yamada for State Circle.
And so we're back, and of course, we just saw the governor come in behind us, so he's poised to come into the chamber. It's always a rousing audience that greets him as he comes in. And Jeff, he's very popular with both sides of the aisle.
On a personal level, absolutely. And part of that was, and I don't know how big a part, but the governor's battle with lymphoma, which began just a few months after his first inauguration. Governor beat that successfully, changed his hairstyle a bit, and possibly because so many people know somebody who's been through that, and because of the transparency and courage with which he fought the disease, there may have been a bit of a bond. Now there are a number of other problems with current health. President of the Senate is fighting cancer. The Speaker of the House recently had heart bypass surgery. It is a shared experience on many levels. Among the people in this room, of course, a lot of people who would like to be governor at some point down the road.
That is an understatement. You know, literally the theme to replace him actually starts the moment he gets elected. And a lot of people are just really trying to make sure that he gets through the 4 years. And the question is, what does he do afterwards?
And now the governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan.
Well, good morning. Good morning. My fellow Marylanders, I am humbled to once again stand before this General Assembly after 4 years of bipartisan cooperation and historic progress to report on the state of our great state. Mr. Speaker, thank you for extending the courtesy of allowing me to give this address in the House chamber. And President Miller, I can attest to how tough the battle is that you are facing, but I also know your strength and your never give up spirit. And I want you to know that we are all praying that you come out of this stronger than ever. God bless you. I want to express my appreciation to all of the members of the House and the Senate from both sides of the aisle who joined together with us these past 4 years to change Maryland for the better. At my inauguration in 2015, I said that the politics that have divided our state need not divide our nation. The teleprompter just went out. So I'm going to read the speech. How about that? I pledged to avoid the extremes of either political party and to instead seek that middle ground where we could all stand together. I believe it is because we kept that promise that I am standing here again today at the start of yet another term. We have spent the past 4 years working together to tackle our common problems by accepting our shared responsibility to solve them. And we have shown the rest of America that a divided government does not have to be a divisive government. President Kennedy once said, "Let us not seek the Republican answer or the Democratic answer, but the right answer." As a young man, I was proud to work for President Ronald Reagan, who said, "There is no limit to the amount of good you can do if you don't care who gets the credit." And you all deserve a lot of credit. Thank you. I pledged 4 years ago to create an environment of trust and cooperation where the best ideas rise to the top based on their merit, regardless of which side of the aisle they come from. And it is that kind of common sense pragmatism that has guided our path forward. We didn't demand Republican solutions or Democratic solutions. We sought out bipartisan, common sense solutions that worked for the people of Maryland. We found a way to disagree without being disagreeable. We stood side by side, our different views clearly acknowledged, but not obstructing our path forward. We did our very best to put the people's priorities ahead of the current national obsessions with partisanship, while striving to change Maryland for the better. And as a result of those efforts, I'm pleased to report that the state of our state has never been stronger, and that the people of Maryland are more encouraged about the direction of our state than they have ever been. We pledged to put more people to work, to grow the private sector, and to turn our economy around. And we have done exactly what we said we would do. The very first budget that I submitted eliminated nearly all of the $5.1 billion structural deficit we inherited. And in the latest budget I just submitted to you, we have managed to put $1.3 billion into savings for our future needs. Here in Annapolis, we have worked together to pass balanced budgets every single year. Heck, they haven't passed the budget in Washington since 1996. We cut taxes, tolls, and fees by $1.2 billion. And we put all of that money back into the pockets of struggling Maryland families, retirees, and small businesses, and back into our growing economy. We cleared away the tangle of regulatory undergrowth and paved the way for historic economic growth and record job creation. More businesses are open and more people are working than ever before in the history of our state. And we've had one of the best economic turnarounds in America. That success has enabled us to once again provide historic record funding for education and to fully fund every one of Maryland's other priorities. It has also made it possible for us to provide additional tax relief to Marylanders who desperately need it the most. We are introducing 8 different legislative proposals which will provide more than $500 million in additional tax relief over the next 5 years. Tax cuts to help retirees that I meet all across the state who say, I love Maryland and I don't want to leave my kids and grandkids, but I can't afford to stay here on a fixed income. Tax incentives to help provide parental leave for those working parents struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. Tax cuts for the college graduates who worked hard to earn their degree, only to face the harsh reality of crippling student loan debt. And tax breaks for mom and pop shops and small business owners who are the backbone of our economy and who are struggling to keep employees on the payroll and keep their doors open. These hard-pressed Marylanders deserve a break for a change. Now that we have created such an incredible economic turnaround in Maryland, we can afford this responsible, targeted tax relief. Let's do the right thing and give some of this money back to the people who have worked so hard to help make it happen. We're also proposing tax incentives to revitalize some of our forgotten communities and to make our state's 149 opportunity zones the most competitive ones in the nation, and tax incentives to encourage the creation of thousands of jobs where we need them the most, and for job training and workforce development to give people the skills they need. Let's come together to pass the More Opportunities for Marylanders Act. The previous governor, in a State of the State address, said that Maryland had crumbling roads and bridges and the worst traffic congestion in the nation. Well, we decided to finally do something about that. So we're moving forward on nearly all of the highest priority transportation projects in every single jurisdiction all across the state. An unprecedented and historic investment in our transportation infrastructure, in both transit and roads. We began construction on the Purple Line, the largest public-private transit project in the nation. We came together with you and our neighbors in the region to finally provide a dedicated source of funding to save the metro system. And after decades of ignoring the problem of traffic congestion, we're making tremendous progress, but much more is still left to be done. So we proposed the largest P3 traffic relief project in the world, because Marylanders are sick and tired of spending countless hours of their lives sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic. Together, we have the opportunity to finally solve that problem for them. We pushed for landmark legislation, which cemented our position as a national and international leader in combating greenhouse gas emissions. We expanded the Climate Change Commission and implemented clean air standards, which are stronger than 48 other states and nearly twice as strong as the Paris Accord recommendations. This year, let's work together to enact the Clean Cars Act and to support clean and renewable energy solutions and green energy jobs. But let's ensure that these solutions are affordable and reliable, and that they create those jobs right here in Maryland. When it comes to the Chesapeake Bay, we put an end to the practice of raiding billions of dollars from Bay trust funds. We fully funded all Bay restoration efforts 4 years in a row. and invested $5 billion, the most ever in history. As chairman of the 6th State Regional Commission, the Chesapeake Executive Council, I stood up and led the fight to protect and restore federal funding for the Chesapeake Bay. And after years of the problem being ignored, we are pushing for action to address the problems of the sediment, debris, and pollution coming down the Susquehanna River over the Conowingo Dam and into the bay. Maryland has made historic progress in bay restoration, but we cannot and should not have to do it alone. I intend to keep pushing our upstream neighbors in Pennsylvania and New York to do their fair share to protect this national treasure. For the 5th year in a row, my budget provides historic, record-high funding for our schools. We've invested $32 billion in K-12 education. Every single school system in Maryland will again see increased investment by the state. The legislature's funding formulas call for Baltimore City to receive $11 million less this year in K-12 education funding. And those formulas also call for decreases in funding for other school systems with declining enrollments. Our budget ignores those recommendations and fully restores all of this important funding. More than half of our entire capital budget goes towards education. And the casino lockbox, which we jointly supported, will provide an additional $4.4 billion more for our schools, the vast majority of which will go directly into the classrooms for critical things like teacher salaries, pre-K expansion, extended academic programming for at-risk students, and innovative career technology education programs. In Maryland, we are proud to have some of the best and most highly funded schools in America. Let's continue making progress with upgrades and repairs to our aging schools by passing the Building Opportunity Fund to help us also put record funding into school construction. And with the billions of dollars in historic investment in our local school systems, Marylanders are demanding more accountability. This isn't about politics. This is about our kids and their futures, making sure that every single child in Maryland has the same opportunity to get a world-class education, regardless of what neighborhood they happen to grow up in. This is about giving every Maryland child hope for a better future and giving them the opportunities that they deserve. It's time to enact the Accountability in Education Act. In November, a panel of federal judges unanimously ruled that the boundary lines of Maryland's 6th congressional district are unconstitutional. And they ordered that new electoral lines for the 6th district be drawn by next month. Free and fair elections are at the very foundation of American democracy and the most basic promise that those in power can pledge to the citizens we represent. This unanimous ruling was a victory for those who value fairness and balance in our political system. For the past 3 years, our administration has pushed for comprehensive, nonpartisan redistricting reform, which would remove partisan politics from the redistricting process. This is supported by an overwhelming majority of all Marylanders. Please do not hide this legislation in a drawer again this year. Listen. Listen to the will of the people of Maryland, and finally bring this bill to the floor of both chambers for an up or down vote. We enacted the most sweeping criminal justice reform in a generation. Together, we have worked to break the cycle of incarceration and reduce our prison population more than every other state in America. But stopping these repeat violent offenders will take a different approach. We were all heartbroken by the story of Taylor Hayes, the 7-year-old second grader who lost her life after being shot in the backseat of a car in Baltimore City. And then, just a few months later, we were stunned by the jarring image of a child's doll lying in the street, surrounded by crime scene tape. And we were horrified to learn that Taylor's 5-year-old sister, Amy, was the one shot in that incident, caught in gang crossfire. People who live in Baltimore City don't feel safe in their own neighborhoods. And citizens all across the state are outraged by the daily reports of this rampant gang violence. We launched an aggressive, coordinated surge to back up the beleaguered city police force. We sent 500 federal, state, and local law enforcement officers into the city and made 1,900 arrests. A few weeks ago, we announced a new comprehensive violent crime plan, which includes the opening of a violent crime joint operations center and a new strike force consisting of more than 200 additional law enforcement personnel from 16 federal and state law enforcement agencies, as well as local partners from the city and surrounding jurisdictions. And we announced other proposals, including assisting the city in recruiting and putting more officers into the community. But all of these efforts won't be enough if we cannot keep these violent offenders off the streets. 60% of those convicted of gun crimes in Baltimore City do not serve any serious jail time and are simply released to commit violent felonies again and again. That is completely unacceptable. Help us bring transparency and accountability to our justice system by enacting the Judicial Transparency Act, which will require the Maryland State Commission on Criminal Sentencing Policy to track and publish information on the sentencing by judges given to those convicted of violent crimes. And last year, inexplicably, we were unable to get legislation passed to impose tougher mandatory sentences for those who repeatedly commit violent crimes with guns. We're talking about taking our communities back and saving lives. Enough is enough. The time has come for all of us to take a stand together and finally, once and for all, pass the Repeat Firearms Offenders Act. Much of this violence is the result of the opioid crisis raging across our nation. I was the first governor in America to declare a state of emergency, and we committed $800 million toward fighting the heroin, opioid, and substance abuse epidemic from all directions with a multi-pronged approach. We focused on prevention, education, treatment, interdiction, and enforcement. And while we have bent the curve downward on prescription opioid and heroin overdose deaths, an even more deadly drug, fentanyl, is infecting and poisoning America. Too many of us know the devastation caused by heroin and opioid addiction. Under the surface, this crisis is destroying lives and tearing apart families and communities. This is a fight worth fighting, but it will take all of us, federal, state, county, municipal, and community leaders, working together with an all-hands-on-deck approach in order to save thousands of lives. When it comes to the issue of health care, Washington has continued to fail, but Maryland has continued to lead. We launched what has been called one of the most aggressive efforts in the country to protect the insurance exchange from collapsing. We pioneered a total cost of care Medicare model contract, the only one of its kind in the nation. Together, we enacted landmark legislation to stabilize the individual marketplace and to create an innovative reinsurance program in our state. Thank you for rising to the challenge and working together with us to stop the 50% increases in insurance rates to instead achieve lower rates for the first time in a decade and to protect the coverage of hundreds of thousands of Marylanders. Ladies and gentlemen, the problems we have faced and will continue to face are not easily remedied, but we have already faced and overcome more daunting challenges before, as individuals, as a state, and as a nation. My experiences over the last 4 years have blessed me with optimism, not burdened me with dread. And I know from personal experience that hope, not fear, is the most powerful emotion and the author of humanity's greatest achievements. While partisanship, dysfunction, and gridlock have become commonplace just down the road in Washington, here in Annapolis, we have chosen a different path. We have been standing up for that exhausted majority who are just sick and tired of all the angry and divisive politics. What they really want is for their elected officials in both parties to put an end to this culture of intolerance, intimidation, and inaction, and just get to work and get things done. 4 years ago, when I first addressed you, I said that no problem faces us that hard work, honesty, and courage cannot solve if we work together. That remains as true today as it was then. So let's keep putting the people's priorities before partisan interests. Let's continue to deliver real results for the people who sent us here. Let's keep changing Maryland for the better and continue setting an example for Washington so that America can once again set an example for the world. Thank you, and may God continue to bless the great state of Maryland.
Governor Hogan sets out his agenda for the beginning of his second term in office. Now with a Democratic view of the state of our state, House Majority Leader Kathleen Dumais.
Thank you to Maryland Public Television for giving the General Assembly leadership time to outline our priorities for the coming session. My name is Kathleen Dumais. I serve as the Majority Leader of the Maryland House of Delegates. I also want to thank Governor Hogan for submitting a budget proposal that funds so many of our collective priorities, including employee raises, increases to education funding, and increasing for mental health providers. Each of these is mandated by the General Assembly. We look forward to working together to fund more school construction. But the General Assembly will also need to make hard decisions to cut tens of millions of dollars to balance the governor's budget, since the governor left us a deficit. Unlike Washington, we know how to find common ground when we need to. But we also have a different view from the governor of the state's role and ability to improve the lives of everyday Marylanders. The Democrats in the General Assembly are focused on building a strong middle class with a growing economy and helping working families create opportunities to get ahead. Yesterday, we announced a package of legislation to move Maryland families to opportunity, increasing Maryland's minimum wage to $15 an hour, protecting pre-existing conditions in all health insurance coverage, increasing the child care tax credit, curbing the cost of prescription drugs for Marylanders and state retirees, banning 3D guns and ghost guns, and increasing the age of tobacco sales to 21 years of age. There will never be a magical or perfect time to invest in our students. The right time is now. This session, we will be working to implement the framework of policy recommendations to improve our public schools, often referred to as the Kirwan Commission recommendations. While the governor has said the recommendations are too expensive, we cannot afford to overlook a generation of public school students who are the future of Maryland. We applaud the governor's desire to increase funding to build new schools, but we must improve the quality education inside the buildings as well. Without an engine, a shiny new car won't go anywhere. The Kirwan Commission found that Maryland students, 1, are underperforming in reading and math, 2, that only about 1/3 of high school graduates are career and college ready, 3, that over half of Maryland schools have a significant population of poor students, and 4, that the average salaries for teachers are 25% below comparable professions. We can and will do better. Further, a United Way study last fall found that 38% of Maryland families are not able to afford basic necessities. We need to help every Maryland family find a pathway to opportunity through education, apprenticeships, and career technology programs. The General Assembly has led the way for over a decade in improving the health of the Chesapeake Bay, despite some of the governor's efforts to roll back our environmental protections over the past 4 years. One key fight this year will be the future of oysters in the Chesapeake Bay, the natural filter that has cleaned the bay for centuries. We'll also ban the use of styrofoam and foam byproducts this year. We'll be the first state in the country to ban foam packaging. Last year, we worked together with the governor to make health care companies cover more of the cost of insuring the sickest Marylanders. This helped us lower health care costs for every Marylander in the health exchange. However, the toughest decisions on health care are in front of us, not behind us. We challenged the governor to come to the table and work with us to find a permanent solution for those families for whom health care is quickly becoming unaffordable. Nationally, prescription drug costs per capita are more than twice that of 19 other first world countries. Costs this year are expected to rise again. Despite that, Governor Hogan has opposed General Assembly attempts to make prescription drugs more affordable. This year, the legislature will again take on this problem. We will work with Governor Hogan when we can, but we will not sacrifice our democratic values and principles. We will stand up for the middle-class families in this state. We will fight for the school children of Maryland. We will defend the workers, the teachers, and the public servants of our state from harmful policies that undercut their ability to get ahead. We will be uncompromising in ensuring that every Marylander has the opportunity to support their families, live up to their potential, get a quality education, and have access to the strongest healthcare system in the country. That is our promise to you. Thank you.
And we're back live at the State House, joined by State Senators Carrozza and Zucker, and my colleague Yolanda Vasquez.
Yes.
You were in the room. Your thoughts on the governor's speech?
It was an exciting day to be in the chamber and to hear Governor Hogan's speech. It's right on target. It's what he's been talking about for the past 4 years, about staying on track, keeping Maryland's fiscal house in order, providing some very much needed relief for some of our retirees, our small business job creators, also focused on the heroin opioid epidemic and how we need to continue to work together in a bipartisan way on those challenges. And of course, I was very encouraged to hear what we'll be doing on the public safety end, really trying to focus on going after those violent repeat offenders.
Yes, Senator Craig Zucker, what exactly did you think are your thoughts on the state of the state today?
Well, I think this day is very special for a number of reasons. Just given everything that's going on and the dysfunction in Washington, D.C., I think it's just another indication that both Democrats and Republicans want to work together to help Marylanders. One of the things that I'd like to see the governor do in the future is take a position on some of the positions that Democrats have spoken about over the last couple of days to help middle-class families and working families.
There were a number of items that were listed as part of the Democratic priorities. Which one in particular would you like him to focus on?
Well, I think, we want to see what's going to happen with the minimum wage. Also, in terms of the budget, we have to fund schools. That's mandated in our Constitution. So what else we can do to help area schools across the state, and also what we can do in the future to help those federal employees that are in Maryland from a possible future government shutdown. But these are things that we're going to be working over the 90 days, hopefully in a bipartisan way.
Okay, Jeff, I'm going to send it back over to you.
I did not hear the governor say anything about the Kirwan Commission. Now, it was not his initiative, but in terms of legislative priorities for this session, at a time when the budget is pretty stable, governor's talking about some tax cuts. How much room is there to increase education spending?
I'd like to respond to that because right now the Kirwan's work is not finished. They have a year extension to work specifically on fair funding formulas. So we have terrific recommendations with bipartisan support. For example, elevating teaching as a profession, and strengthening career, trade, technology, education, policies that there is bipartisan support. But we have to figure out how we are going to pay for this. And when we come up with the fair funding formulas, to make sure that it's fair for the local school districts.
Where do we stand from your side of the aisle? And you're Montgomery County, right?
I am, yeah.
Which adds another twist in terms of where the tax dollars go.
Sure. Well, I think, as a state senator and as state representatives, it's important that we have a statewide perspective that Montgomery County students are doing well as those students in the Eastern Shore. But that's why I think it's imperative for us all to work together to fund education, to make sure that no matter where we are in the state, especially Montgomery County, that our educators are getting the resources that they need and our students are getting what they need. And it would be good to see something coming out of the administration that sets down on paper something that would reflect what the Kirwan Commission is recommending.
Thank you very much, Senators. We appreciate it. Thank you for your time. And we're going to bring some county executives over to speak with us if they
Thanks
can.
very much.
Come on over. Barry Glassman, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you.
Hi, Jeff. Very good to see you.
Yes.
Thanks for the time.
Yes.
This is County Executive Glassman, County Executive Ball of Howard County.
Yes, good to see you. Very good to see you as well.
Two different sides of the aisle here. Your reaction to the governor's talk?
Well, I was very excited to hear about his investment in jobs and small businesses and economic development. I was, however, disappointed that there wasn't a discussion about the government shutdown and that impact on our economy and our workers.
Well, I think the governor is continuing a good tone, a good bipartisan tone to work together. He's talking about safe communities, addressing the violence that we have in Baltimore City in some areas, and also talking about good schools, investing in construction and so forth. I know for most Maryland counties, we are very concerned about the Kirwan Commission, and some of those formulas would require every county in the state to raise the property tax by 25 cents to fund it. So we are kind of waiting to hear something on what could come down the road for us. And some of the tax cuts sound good, but counties also see a reduction in revenue from that. So on one hand, we're concerned about mandating us to spend more money, yet also cutting our revenue too. So we're going to watch that closely.
You're also the president of MACO, and I know that you just outlined some of their legislative priorities for the new year. Can you tell us if any of those are in line with what the governor was speaking about?
Well, I think the school construction, working with the Maryland Stadium Authority, bond funding and some of those things are good. They're going to help our counties. But then again, I would say counties still have to come up with the match. And there are a lot of us that really don't have that match. So we've still got some details to work through to make sure it's fairly balanced across all of my counties, rural, urban, across the board.
Dr. Calvin Ball, I know you mentioned you would like the governor to speak a little bit more about the government shutdown, but Howard County's been pretty good at making sure that their residents get taken care of during this time. Anything else you wish the governor would have spoken about?
Well, unfortunately, the government shutdown has adversely impacted our economy, and we could potentially see a recession looming. So I think that is a real issue that really warrants discussion when we're looking at things like school construction funding or his investment in transportation and what have you. If we don't have the money coming from our workers, the businesses that have been hurt because of the government shutdown, then we're not going to be able to meet those priorities.
Education is also big in Howard County.
Well,
all over the states.
Exactly. Education is a great priority, and I really appreciate the governor's investment and commitment to school construction funding. However, there's the operating side too, and we need more conversation and more support of that to ensure that all of our children and all of our educators are taken care of.
What do your county budgets look like? You're just beginning your first term, Mr. Glassman, your second. Now that you're in office, you got to do your own budget. How does it add up?
Unfortunately, our budget situation is quite tight. We really don't have the kind of growth that we had hoped. We were looking at potentially a 3 to 4% growth. We're looking at maybe 1 to 2, especially given this government shutdown. And so as we're looking at these tight budgets and we're looking at the needs being exacerbated by things like the federal government shutdown, we need to make sure that we, as County Executive Glassman indicated, don't have more mandates with less funding.
So the idea that a state tax cut, even the targeted cuts the governor was talking about, would roll down to you.
Right. State tax credits take off the top of the line, so the counties share in that revenue. If the state reduces their obligation, then the counties automatically see a reduction. For the most part, Maryland counties at MACO, we support tax credits, but we say the state should do it on their side, and counties should have a chance to address it how each of us want to address it.
The governor talked about public safety. Neither of your counties has a major crime issue, but in terms of his proposal for repeat violent offenders, monitoring how judges are sentencing those people, your thoughts?
Well, definitely. Every one of us wants to make sure that we have a very safe community. And there's always more work to be done. And when there are repeat violent offenders, we need to make sure that there is justice done. But we also need to look at things like the school-to-prison pipeline and minimizing those repeat violent offenders before they even become offenders. And I think we need to talk more about that too.
Very good. Mr. Glassman, Mr. Ball,
thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Congratulations on your win. We appreciate
Always
it.
good to see you. Yes, thank
Yolanda,
you so much.
we're going to grab Senator Hershey.
Yes, and Delegate Cherie Sample Hughes. You can come on over. Thank you.
Hello, Delegate. Nice to see you.
Good to see you as well. Senator Hershey, what was your response for the State of the State from Governor Hogan earlier today?
I think it was a great speech. I mean, the governor came across in a very moderating point of view, talked a lot about the successes that we've had here in Annapolis, obviously criticized Washington, D.C. and what's going on down there, but just said that we're getting things done in Annapolis, brought up a lot of things that we were successful with and a lot of ideas that he had for solutions.
We've only got a minute left, so I'll leave it to Delegate.
You lead the Women's Caucus, which is the largest ever. What are your priorities for this session?
This session, we have identified that human trafficking certainly still is a big issue area, but infant mortality is one of the areas that rose to the top. What we're finding often is African American communities, that's where there has been an increase in infant mortality, and so we're putting an emphasis on that, as well as women veterans and the aging woman as well. Many times we often look at the younger age women, but this time we are looking at making sure economic security is a priority for aging women as they take care of their loved ones, but they also making sure they take care of themselves as well.
Delegate Sample Hughes, thank you very much for your time. Senator, thank you for your time. Just a reminder that we will have a complete wrap-up of all of the week's news in Annapolis, including the Governor's State of the State address and reaction to it on our State Circle program. That's Friday night at 7. Now for Yolanda Vasquez, Charles Robinson, and all of us at MPT, I'm Jeff Salkin. Thanks for watching and have a good day.